Kevin Madden is a Republican strategist and former Mitt Romney communications manager. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me read you what the McCain campaign said today about the vetting of Sarah Palin. Quote, "This vetting controversy is a faux media scandal designed to destroy the first female Republican nominee for Vice President of the United States who has never been a part of the old boys network that has come to dominate the news establishment in this country." Why are they blaming the media?
Well, I think the most important thing that the McCain campaign wants to do now is essentially engender some sympathy for Sarah Palin. That the vetting that she's going through has nothing to do with the big issues that the voters care about, but instead it has to do with trivial distractions on the side. And instead, that this is going to be a campaign about experience. It's going to be a campaign about reform and change. And by putting the onus again on the media for not paying attention to the bigger issues, they can engender a lot of sympathy.
I mean, let me ask you, as someone who is the communications manager for a presidential campaign, blaming the media as a strategy,
right.
What does that do?
Well, look, I think it's not your core message, but it's more of a tactical message. What you're essentially doing is putting the media, shaming the media back onto the covering the real issues, because ultimately the American public right now, Joe Q voter is sitting at his kitchen table. He's worried about his health care costs. He's worried about the spiraling costs of higher education. He's worried about the economy. He's not worried about the mechanics of a campaign and a vetting process, and that's where the media attention seems to be right now.
I wonder if the McCain campaign has lost control of, and if they failed to do a good job essentially rolling out Governor Palin. The reason I ask that is something that James Baker, who of course handled the rollout of Dan Quayle, is George H.W. Bush vice presidential candidate. In his memoir, he wrote, with the benefit of hindsight, what should be done is to float the name a few weeks before the convention and let the games begin. By opening gavel, the candidate will have run the gauntlet of press scrutiny or opposition research or have dropped out. Isn't that kind of the strategy? And did they fail to do that by just having this surprise pick because nobody knew who she was, that then led to all of these stories, and they lost control of the rollout, the message control?
Well, look, in the military they always say that every battle plan is perfect until it meets the enemy. So, I've run perfect campaigns in my mind after we've already lost. They always have the benefit of hindsight. But the first thing to remember is that the McCain campaign is only at the beginning of this process. There is another 60 days to introduce Sarah Palin to the American voters. And the most important venue for that introduction is going to be her speech tonight. That is where the American people are going to sit there, and they're really going to start judging her based on the attributes, based on the issues that she brings to the table. And a lot of this stuff right now, it is a lot of background noise. What's really important is that tonight that they get it right. And I think they feel very confident that when Sarah Palin is done with her speech, that the American voter is going to see somebody who's tough, somebody who's a reformer, and somebody who's very, very capable of shaking up the status quo in Washington. And that is essentially their message. The rest of this, they're just distractions.
As I'm sure you would agree, it ultimately, no matter how many a job or bad a job you do, it ultimately fails to the principle, and people make a judgment about the principle.
Yeah, and you know what? The funny thing too is that to use a sports analogy, you can everybody second guesses the play calling. At the end of the day, it's what's on the scoreboard, and the voters are going to be the ones that decide this on Election Day.
What's on the scoreboard? We'll be scoring the speech tonight. Kevin Madden, thanks so much.